In this video, a grandmother sues her own son and daughter-in-law for the right to see her grandchildren. Sounds sympathetic, right? Poor old grandma just wants to hug her grandbabies. But wait. Wait until you hear what this woman did to those children. Wait until you see what the court uncovered about her past. And wait until you watch a judge look this woman dead in the eyes and tell her she will never see those kids again. Some grandmothers bake cookies. Some grandmothers knit sweaters. And some grandmothers use the family court system as a weapon to maintain control over the people they spent decades abusing. This is a story about boundaries, about a mother who said, enough, and about a narcissist who thought the legal system would be her final trump card. She was wrong. Let's begin.
Okay. So, I need to give you some background here because this story doesn't make sense without it. My name doesn't matter. I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids. At the time of this story, they were 6 and 4. My husband, let's call him David, is honestly the love of my life. Good man. Works hard. Would do anything for his family. But David came with baggage. And that baggage had a name. Linda. His mother. Now look. I'm not one of those people who hates their mother-in-law just because. I went into this marriage wanting to have a good relationship with her. I really did. I grew up without grandparents, and I wanted my kids to have that. But Linda? Linda made that impossible. From day one, and I mean literally from the first time David brought me home to meet her, this woman had a problem with me. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't the right religion. I didn't cook the way she cooked. I didn't clean the way she cleaned. I was taking her son away. You know the type. But here's the thing. I could deal with her not liking me. That's fine. Not everyone has to like me. What I could not deal with was how she treated my children. And before you ask, no, I'm not exaggerating. Let me give you some examples. When my daughter was 3, Linda told her, to her face, that mommy was going to leave one day and never come back. My 3-year-old had nightmares for weeks. When my son was 2, Linda accidentally fed him peanut butter. He's allergic. We'd told her this multiple times. Multiple times. We ended up in the emergency room. Her response? Well, allergies weren't a thing when I raised kids. You're being dramatic. She undermined every single parenting decision we made. We said no sugar before bed. She'd sneak them candy. We said no scary movies. She'd put on horror films and say, toughen them up. She told my daughter that I was fat. Told my son that his daddy was weak because he let his wife boss him around. And the thing that really got me? She'd do all of this behind our backs, and then act like the perfect, loving grandmother whenever anyone else was watching. Classic narcissist playbook. David saw it. He did. And to his credit, he tried to talk to her. Multiple times. He'd say, Mom, you can't say those things to the kids. And she'd cry. Turn on the waterworks. Tell him he was choosing me over his own mother. Guilt trip him until he backed down. This went on for years. Years. But then, the final straw. Thanksgiving. 2 years ago. We're at Linda's house. Big family dinner. Everything seems fine. Kids are playing in the other room. I walk in to check on them. And I see Linda. Holding my daughter by the arm. Squeezing. Hard. My daughter is crying. And Linda is saying, I will never forget these words. She's saying, you tell your mother that grandma is the boss. Not her. You understand me? Grandma is the boss. I lost it. I mean, I didn't scream. I didn't hit her. But something inside me just clicked. Like a switch flipped. I walked over, took my daughter's hand, and said, we're leaving. Now. Linda tried to play innocent. Oh, we were just playing. She's fine. You're overreacting like you always do. I didn't respond. I got my kids. I got my husband. And we left. That night, I sat David down and told him the truth. Your mother will never see these children again. Ever. I don't care if that makes me the villain. I don't care if your whole family hates me. She will not put her hands on my daughter. She will not terrorize my children. This is done. And you know what? David agreed. We blocked Linda on everything. Phones. Social media. Email. We told the rest of the family that we were taking a break from contact. Some of them understood. Most of them didn't. But I didn't care. My kids were safe. That was all that mattered. Or so I thought.
Boundaries. They're funny things. To healthy people, a boundary is a simple request for respect. Please don't do that. It hurts me. But to a narcissist, a boundary is a declaration of war. This woman had spent her entire life controlling her son, controlling her family. And now, someone had finally said no. Someone had finally locked the door. But Linda had one more card to play. A card she thought would trump everything. The legal system. And what happened next? Well, let's just say she had no idea who she was dealing with.
3 months of peace. 3 months of no Linda. No guilt trips. No manipulation. My kids were happier. Calmer. My daughter stopped having nightmares. My son stopped flinching when adults raised their voices. I thought it was over. Then the letter came. I still remember standing at the mailbox, looking at this envelope with family court stamped on it. My hands were shaking. I opened it. And there it was. A petition for grandparents' visitation rights. Filed by Linda Marie, last name. Seeking court-ordered visitation with minor children, my kids' names. She was suing us. This woman, who had abused my children, terrorized my family, put my son in the hospital, was using the court system to force her way back into their lives. I wanted to throw up. I called David at work. He came home immediately. We sat at the kitchen table staring at this document like it was a bomb. Now, I need to explain something for people who don't know. Grandparents' rights is a real thing in many states. The laws vary, but basically, in some circumstances, grandparents can petition the court for visitation even if the parents don't want it. Usually, this is meant for situations where, like, one parent dies and the surviving parent cuts off the deceased parent's family. It's supposed to protect legitimate relationships. But narcissists? They weaponize it. And Linda? She had built an entire narrative. We got a copy of her petition. And reading it was, honestly, it was surreal. According to Linda, she was a loving, devoted grandmother who had been cruelly and inexplicably cut off from her grandchildren by her vindictive daughter-in-law. According to Linda, I had alienated her son from his family. According to Linda, the children were being denied their heritage and were suffering emotional harm from being kept away from their grandmother. She even included photos. Photos of her holding my kids at Christmas. Photos of birthday parties. Smiling. Happy. Out of context, it looked damning. It looked like we were the bad guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I was scared. I was really, really scared. What if the court believed her? What if some judge looked at this sweet little old lady and decided she deserved access to my children? What if we lost? I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I kept imagining my kids being forced to spend weekends with this woman. Being alone with her. Having no protection. David held me that night while I cried. But then something happened. I got angry. I got really, really angry. This woman had spent years making my life miserable. She had hurt my children. She had manipulated my husband. And now she thought she could use a courtroom to finish the job? No. Absolutely not. I looked at David and I said, we're not folding. We're fighting. And we're going to destroy her. He nodded. Okay. Let's find a lawyer.
There's a moment in every conflict where the prey stops running, where the mouse turns around and looks the cat dead in the eyes. Most narcissists never see this coming. They're so used to winning, so used to people backing down, apologizing, giving in. But this mother was done running. And she was about to teach Linda a very important lesson. When you sue someone, you open the door to discovery. And discovery is where secrets go to die.
Finding the right lawyer was everything. We talked to 3 different family attorneys. The first one was too soft. Said we should try to mediate and find common ground. Hard pass. The second one was too expensive. Like $500 an hour expensive. We're not rich. But the third one? The third one was perfect. Her name was Karen. And yes, I know how that sounds, but I promise you, this Karen was on our side. First meeting, I told her everything. Every incident. Every hospital visit. Every cruel thing Linda had said to my children. Karen listened. Took notes. Didn't interrupt. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "This woman picked the wrong family to mess with. Here's what we're going to do." And then she laid out the battle plan. Step 1, document everything. Karen told us to write down every single incident we could remember. Dates. Times. What was said. Who was there. She wanted a complete timeline of Linda's behavior. David and I stayed up until 3 a.m. that night. We filled 14 pages. Step 2, gather evidence. Remember those texts I mentioned? The ones where Linda called me names? Where she made threats? Where she undermined our parenting? Yeah. I had saved all of them. Every single one. I'm a bit paranoid about that stuff. Always have been. Turns out that paranoia saved us. We also had the hospital records from my son's allergic reaction. We had emails where Linda admitted she forgot about his allergy. We had text messages where she told David to control his wife. Step 3, witnesses. This was harder. A lot of David's family was either on Linda's side or too scared to get involved. But we found some. David's cousin, who had seen Linda grab my daughter at Thanksgiving. She agreed to testify. My neighbor, who had heard Linda screaming at me in our driveway. She agreed to testify. And most importantly, David's younger sister. Sarah had been no contact with Linda for 5 years. She'd escaped before David did. And she had stories. Stories that made mine look tame. She agreed to testify too. Step 4, discovery. This is where it got interesting. See, when you file a lawsuit, both sides get to request information from each other. It's called discovery. Linda had to provide documents. Medical records. Employment history. Any previous court involvement. And Karen? Karen requested everything. At first, Linda's lawyer objected. Tried to limit what we could see. But Karen fought back. Said everything was relevant to establishing a pattern of behavior. The judge agreed. And that's when we struck gold. More on that in a minute. But first, let me tell you about Linda's strategy. Because she wasn't just sitting around waiting. She was building her case too. She hired a private investigator. To follow us. To take pictures of our house. To see if we were fit parents. I'm not making this up. We found out because the PI was really bad at his job. My neighbor saw him parked outside our house 3 days in a row and called the cops. Linda also started a social media campaign. Posted on Facebook about how she was being kept from her grandchildren. Her friends, enablers, every single one of them, left comments calling me a monster. She even tried to contact my kids' school. Showed up claiming to be a concerned relative. The school called us immediately because we'd already warned them this might happen. But here's the thing about narcissists. They think they're the smartest person in the room. They think they can manipulate everyone. And they always slip up. Linda's slip-up came in her deposition. Karen questioned her for 3 hours. And Linda couldn't help herself. She got angry. She got defensive. She made statements she couldn't take back. She admitted she'd fed my son peanut butter to prove he wasn't really allergic. She admitted she'd grabbed my daughter at Thanksgiving because my daughter needed discipline. She admitted she thought I was an unfit mother because I didn't respect my elders. All on the record. All documented. Karen walked out of that deposition smiling. "We've got her," she said. But we didn't know the half of it. Because the discovery documents? The ones we'd been waiting for? They finally arrived. And what we found inside changed everything.
Discovery. It's a beautiful thing. In everyday life, narcissists can hide. They can curate their image, control the narrative, present themselves as saints while their victims suffer in silence. But in a courtroom, under oath, with documents subpoenaed, the mask doesn't just slip, it shatters. Visual, text on screen, ACT4, the unmasking. And what was behind Linda's mask? Well, let's just say the judge had some strong feelings about it.
Okay. So, the discovery documents. Remember how I said Karen requested everything? Medical records, court history, employment, all of it? Linda's lawyer tried to fight some of it. Claimed it was irrelevant or too old. But Karen argued that patterns of behavior don't have expiration dates. The judge agreed. And what came back was, I don't even know how to describe it. Let's start with the CPS reports. Turns out, Linda had been investigated by Child Protective Services 3 times when David and Sarah were kids. 3 times. David didn't know about this. Sarah didn't know about this. Their father, Linda's ex-husband, had apparently handled it quietly, and when they divorced, he moved across the country. The reports detailed physical discipline beyond reasonable standards. That's legal speak for hitting. Reports of children being locked in rooms as punishment. Reports of emotional abuse. The investigations were closed as inconclusive because, and this part made me sick, because Linda was cooperative and the children were too young to provide reliable testimony. She'd gotten away with it. But now it was on the record. There was more. Employment records showed Linda had been fired from a daycare center in 1998. The reason? Inappropriate discipline of a minor in her care. She had been banned from working with children. And she never told anyone. There was also a restraining order from 2005. Filed by David's ex-girlfriend. Apparently Linda had harassed her for months after they broke up. Showed up at her apartment. Called her workplace. Left threatening voicemails. The restraining order was granted. Linda had to stay 500 feet away for 2 years. David had no idea this happened. He was deployed overseas at the time. But we had it now. Karen organized all of this into a binder. A thick, devastating binder of evidence. Linda's history. Our documentation. The medical records. The text messages. The deposition transcripts. And then we went to court. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday. I barely slept the night before. When we walked in, Linda was already there. Sitting at the other table with her lawyer. She was dressed nice. Conservative. The loving grandmother costume. She looked at me and smiled. That smile. God, that smile. Like she'd already won. I didn't react. I just sat down next to David and Karen. The judge came in. Older guy. Probably late 50s. No nonsense expression. I remember thinking, please let him see through her. Please. Linda's lawyer went first. He painted this picture of a devoted grandmother being unfairly punished for minor misunderstandings. He talked about how important grandparent relationships are for child development. He submitted those photos of Linda with my kids, the smiling, happy ones. He asked for reasonable visitation. Every other weekend. Holidays. Birthdays. My stomach was churning. Then it was our turn. Karen stood up. Calm. Confident. She thanked the court for its time. And then she started talking. She started with the pattern. She walked the judge through every documented incident. The peanut butter. The nightmares. The grabbing. The undermining. All of it. Then she submitted the deposition transcript. Read Linda's own words out loud. To prove he wasn't really allergic. She needed discipline. Unfit mother because she doesn't respect her elders. I watched Linda's face while Karen read. The smile was gone. She was gripping the table. Then Karen dropped the hammer. She submitted the CPS reports from the 80s. The employment termination from the daycare. The restraining order from 2005. She submitted the evidence that Linda had hired a private investigator to follow us. The reports from the school about Linda trying to make contact. And then she called Sarah to the stand. Sarah. David's sister. The one who'd been no contact for 5 years. She testified for 45 minutes. She talked about being hit with a wooden spoon until she had bruises. About being locked in her room for entire weekends. About being told she was worthless and would never amount to anything. She talked about why she left. About the years of therapy. About the nightmares she still has. She cried. David cried. I cried. Linda just sat there. Stone-faced. When Sarah finished, Karen turned to the judge and said, Your Honor. This woman is not seeking a relationship with her grandchildren out of love. She is seeking to continue a pattern of control and abuse that spans 4 decades. She has harmed children before. She will harm these children if given the opportunity. We ask the court to deny her petition in its entirety and to grant a permanent restraining order protecting this family. There was a moment of silence. Then the judge turned to Linda's lawyer. Does your client wish to respond? Linda stood up. Against her lawyer's advice, she stood up. And she started talking. Your Honor, I don't know what all this is. These are lies. My daughter-in-law has turned my own children against me. I'm an old woman. I just want to see my grandchildren. Is that so wrong? Is that a crime? She was crying. Or fake crying. Hard to tell. The judge let her finish. Then he looked at her for a long moment. And he said, Ma'am, I have reviewed the evidence. I have heard the testimony. And I have to tell you, in 30 years on this bench, I have rarely seen a case this clear. Linda's face went white. The judge continued. The pattern documented here is not one of a loving grandmother. It is a pattern of control, manipulation, and abuse. Your actions, your own admitted actions, demonstrate a willful disregard for the safety and well-being of minor children. He turned a page. Furthermore, your conduct during this litigation, hiring a private investigator, attempting unauthorized contact with the children's school, conducting a social media campaign, demonstrates that you do not understand boundaries. And that is precisely the problem. Linda was shaking now. The judge delivered the ruling. The petition for grandparents' visitation is denied. A permanent restraining order is hereby granted, prohibiting the petitioner from contacting the minor children, their parents, their schools, or any member of their immediate family. The petitioner shall remain at least 1,000 feet from the family residence, the children's schools, and any location where the children are known to be present. He wasn't done. Additionally, given the frivolous nature of this petition and the clear pattern of harassment, the petitioner is ordered to pay the respondent's legal fees in full. The court finds this lawsuit was filed not to protect a relationship, but to perpetuate abuse. Linda made a sound. I don't know how to describe it. Like a wounded animal. Her lawyer tried to calm her down. She pushed him away. She looked at me. At David. At Sarah. And for the first time ever, I saw fear in her eyes. Not remorse. Narcissists don't feel remorse. Fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of consequences. Fear of being seen. The judge dismissed us. We walked out of that courtroom into the sunlight. And I finally exhaled.
There's a moment, a perfect crystalline moment, when a narcissist realizes the mask has fallen. When they understand that their tricks don't work anymore. That the courtroom isn't a stage. That the judge isn't an audience to be manipulated. Some narcissists collapse. Some rage. Some deny reality entirely. But for their victims? For the people who spent years being told they were crazy, oversensitive, ungrateful? That moment is freedom. But this story isn't quite over. Because after the courtroom comes the fallout. And the fallout can be messy.
The legal fees came out to just under $23,000. Linda had to pay every penny. Her lawyer tried to file an appeal, but it was denied. The evidence was too overwhelming. The judge's ruling was too well documented. It was over. But you're probably wondering, what happened with the rest of the family? Well, it got complicated. Some of David's relatives reached out after the ruling. Apologized for not believing us. For staying neutral. For enabling Linda all those years. David forgave some of them. Others, not so much. That's his journey to navigate. A few of Linda's die-hard supporters called us every name in the book. Said we'd destroyed an old woman. Said we'd ruined the family. We blocked them too. Linda herself? She tried one more time. About 2 months after the ruling, she sent a letter to my daughter through another relative. A handwritten letter saying how much she missed her grandbabies and how she hoped they'd forgive her someday. I documented it. Called Karen. Karen called the court. Linda was cited for violating the restraining order. She got a warning. If she does it again, she goes to jail. She hasn't tried since. As for my kids, they're okay. They really are. My daughter, who's now 8, still remembers some things. We've had conversations about it. Age-appropriate ones. She knows Grandma Linda wasn't safe and that Mommy and Daddy protected her. She's in therapy. Not intensive, just check-ins. She's processing. My son, now 6, doesn't remember much. He was so young. He just knows he has a grandma that he doesn't see. He doesn't ask many questions. Maybe he will someday. We've explained it as simply as possible. Some people aren't healthy to be around. Sometimes protecting yourself means saying goodbye. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices and other people have to deal with the consequences. And David? David and I are stronger than ever. This experience, as awful as it was, showed us what we're made of. Showed us that we can face hard things together. That we can protect our family, even when it's terrifying. He cut off his mother. His own mother. Because he knew it was right. That takes guts. I'm proud of him. As for me? I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. I used to be a people pleaser. Used to bend over backwards to keep the peace. Used to doubt myself constantly. Not anymore. I learned that boundaries aren't mean. They're essential. I learned that protecting your children isn't alienating anyone. It's parenting. I learned that narcissists count on your silence, your fear, your desire to avoid conflict. And the moment you stop giving them those things, they crumble. If you're watching this and you're dealing with a toxic family member, whether it's a parent, an in-law, a sibling, whoever, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You deserve peace. And if they sue you for it? If they try to use the legal system to force their way back into your life? Fight. Fight hard. Document everything. Get a good lawyer. Tell your truth. Because the court can see through them. I promise you. The mask always falls eventually. My family is safe now. My children are happy. My home is peaceful. And Linda? Linda is alone. Estranged from her son. Estranged from her daughter. Banned from her grandchildren by order of the court. She played her final card. She lost.
And that is where our story ends. A grandmother who thought love was control, who thought family was ownership, who thought the courtroom would be her instrument of revenge. She was wrong. Because real love doesn't sue. Real love doesn't grab. Real love doesn't terrorize. Real love protects. Real love respects boundaries. Real love lets go when it has to. This file is closed. But if you're out there fighting your own battle against a narcissist, whether in the courtroom or the living room, remember this. The truth matters. Evidence matters. Your story matters. Don't let them silence you. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and never underestimate a protective parent.